Still, it's pretty new in the last few centuries. So that is a very positive thing, and I think these constitutional unions which exist, what's happening in Nepal, I agree, is very positive. These must be allowed to go forward. They must be allowed to have their sort of normal sovereign processes. But meanwhile, of course, they should move towards the greatest political cooperation. They should respect each other's sovereign needs. And I think sort of inherent fundamental conflicts are quite limited in the region. There's no reason why the countries of the region cannot cooperate a great deal more than they're cooperating.
So your only objection is that the state structures are weak and not yet mature enough to handle that kind of integration, so we need to bring them up to speed and up to the par.
I think so, yes.
What do you think?
Well, I think it will take time, but you know, I'm a bit surprised to hear you say that Zardari is someone we can take seriously. This is a view which is not common inside Pakistan. The only reason he's president elected indirectly is because his wife bequeathed him the political party and to the son made president for life, which is not exactly a good way to take politics forward. And what he wants or doesn't want is irrelevant, to tell you the truth. The key institution in Pakistan, there are two. One is the people and some of the parties. And the second, which is in fact the dominant institution in the country, is the army. And that is what it has been like since the 50s onwards, backed by the United States. Now, it's very obvious that Pakistan has been run by the United States, and the United States now wants them to move in the direction of India, since India has become a big new favorite, which it never was during the Cold War, but now it is a big US favorite. And the US might want the Indians to exercise dominance, but I don't think that is what I'm talking about. I am talking about an equal relationship between all these countries, and that if we ever reach that stage, a constitution for the South Asian Union which gives each country the right to veto, which you have in the European Union, whether the country is small or large, so that, excuse me, so that Bangladesh needn't fear, or Nepal, or Pakistan, that India can impose anything on us, because it's such a large country with a growing economy. But that if anything is against our interests, we can just put our hands up and veto it. That's quite a good constitutional safeguard. And I'm in favor of ending visa restrictions and allowing people to move freely. But of course, the countries will remain, as the European countries remain, sovereign states. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I think, you know, where I see big problems is in the failure of people to move this program forward. The ordinary people, I think, want it. You know, the New America Foundation carried out an opinion poll in Pakistan a few months ago, and they found that while 70% of the population regarded the United States as the biggest danger to peace in the region, only 11% of Pakistanis saw India as the enemy. Now that represents a total earthquake in Pakistani political perceptions. And for me, that was incredibly positive, that ordinary people know that their future is in this region and not in any other. And once you have a South Asia Union, then, I mean, if we ever reach that stage, then when it comes to negotiating with the United States or any other power, the European Union, you do so as a collective entity and defend the interests of the smaller members of that union. It seems utopian now because we are a long way from it, but I think we have to popularize the idea because I can't see any other future for that region except breaking up. I mean, India probably won't, but there is talk today of the results of the Afghan war spilling over into Pakistan. The Americans are promising local politicians, if you play ball with us, we might even give you Pashtunistan. We might even give you Balochistan. In other words, break up the state. That would be a disaster, by the way, because that would then lead to adventurism on the part of the Pakistani military to stop that happening, and anything is then possible. So this is how I think we need to move forward an agenda for a unified South Asian entity, unified initially by removing restrictions, by removing trade barriers, and from that phase moving on to some form of a political union beneficial to all. The fear of India is very great. You're right about that, because it's so big. But I think there are constitutional safeguards that we
But
can
it seems to me what you said, Tariq Sahib, earlier, the 11% is the only percent left of people who are opposed to India or see it as a threat. Now the business people actually look at India as an opportunity, not as a threat that they thought will suffocate them. So there are newfound constituencies for peace in South Asia, in Pakistan in particular, in Punjab, that did not exist. And Lahore Accord came about because of them. That's what Nawaz Sharif would speak for them. But I think underlying there's an issue that I would like you to address. And that's the issue of Kashmir, because that's a stumbling block. Now it seems to me Lahore Accord was an agreement on Oslo model, not that Oslo was very good in terms of consequences, but it said let's build peace and leave the most difficult issues for future date. And then came Kargil, and then whole thing went back, and then they went to Agra, and then said, okay, let's talk about the most difficult and the least difficult simultaneously. Let's have a basket of issues. And then it seems like after that, the whole process has been placed into circles. People are going through the same circle, and Zardari and his people said the same thing they had said previously. They said, we are very excited. We had a 1-hour meeting with Prime Minister Manmohan instead of 30 minutes that we had scheduled. Now this is after 8 years of negotiation. If Pakistan can only celebrate extension of the meeting, that says something very terribly wrong with the whole process. So what I want to ask you is, in your judgment, what are the policymakers in India thinking in terms of resolving this issue now or later?
I don't think that Indian thinking about Kashmir has changed significantly since 1947. I don't expect that it will. The Indian secularism has its own framework. It's not an ideal system, but it's the only workable system in India at this time. And part of it is that it is not permissible that because Kashmir has a Muslim majority, it will have different rules. Then the same secularism must be there in all states, regardless of which religion is in the majority. That's basically the contract. Now, in terms of Pakistan, I think you're both absolutely right in observing that the 11% finding is a new thing. Nawaz Sharif was elected in '97 based on the beginnings of such a trend, and the trend has only continued. Now, what I see as positive about Zardari, and its provenance is as ridiculous as you say, but people get to where they are by all kinds of means. At that point, they're there. And so then they either have to seize the historical moment and move forward, or they don't. Now, Zardari, and I agree that the army has been ruling in Pakistan for more than half of its history. It could make a comeback. So how much he can move, how much the Pakistani People's Party, how much the whole civilian movement can move Pakistan remains to be seen. It would be a big loss of privilege for the army, which is not likely to be happy about that. But right now, the army has other issues. The army has to deal with the guerrilla movements which are coming up in Northwest Frontier Province and coming into Islamabad itself. And that, so it has greater challenges than it has faced earlier. At the time of the coup, of the '99 coup and earlier coups, it didn't face those challenges. Making a coup was a relatively easy decision. Now it's a more complicated decision. So strangely enough, the rise of the extremists creates an opening for the civilian movement. Not a very satisfactory opening. It is quite possible that Pakistan will spend some time playing Cambodia once again, a country that is happily bombed in order to achieve the objectives of a superpower. But it's not a very happy opening, but given the history up till now, it's almost the best we can do. I don't think, the U.S. is going through a financial crisis. Obama, if he gets elected, would probably get out of Iraq pretty quickly. He may well end up getting out of Afghanistan not too much later if circumstances go a certain way. That's not how he's talking right now. But he'll, like Zardari, he will have to deal with the situation as it comes up. But that would not solve Pakistan's problem. That would be, or at least not the problem of the more secular religious movement. Then the jihadis would be even more powerful, and they would use their power.